Mayor Mike Hager vows to snatch the streets of Metro City back from the crooks with his bare knuckles. But the Mad Gear Gang snatches his daughter Jessica. Now there's going to be some bone-crunching dues to pay. Jessica's boyfriend Cody hits the streets hard with Hagar, denting heads downtown and slugging it out in the slums. He's a one-man army. His weapons are anything he can find, swords, knives, or pipes. Now, you're Hagar or Cody, each with his own fighting style. Demolished gangland henchmen, samurai swordsmen, and muscle-bound crime bosses in a fist-to-nose frenzy. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is Final Fight from Capcom, also released in 1991, like I think just about everything else we're going to look at for the next little while. And it is, of course, an arcade port of Final Fight. Imagine that. This is one of the first Super Nintendo games that I owned, and never got much farther than I think stage 3. It's kind of hard. It's a pretty good game, but it is kind of hard. Let's talk about it a little bit. Side-scrolling beat-em-up from Capcom, released in the arcades in 1989. It is the 7th title released for the CP system hardware. That's the one that they use in the arcade games. Set in the fictional Metro City, you control one of originally 3 characters, Mike Hagar, Cody, or Cody's best friend Guy, as they set out to defeat the Mad Gear Gang and rescue Hagar's young daughter Jessica. The game began development as a sequel to the original Street Fighter, released in 1987, but the genre was switched from a fighting game to a beat-em-up, and the title was changed following the success of Double Dragon. Final Fight was ported to various home consoles like the Super Nintendo and was followed by a few sequels. Its development team later worked on the original Street Fighter 2, and some of the characters from Final Fight later appeared as playable fighters in other entries in the franchise, such as Street Fighter Alpha sub-series. In September 2018, Capcom announced Capcom Beat 'em Up Bundle, with Final Fight being one of the 7 titles released digitally for the PS4, the Switch, the Xbox One, and Windows in 2018. The development goes as follows. Yoshiki Okamoto cites the arcade version, Double Dragon 2 The Revenge, as his basis for Final Fight. It was originally shown at trade shows under the title of Street Fighter 89. According to Okamoto, the sales division of Capcom had originally requested a Street Fighter sequel, so his team decided to promote Final Fight as a Street Fighter sequel at the trade shows, going so far as to refer to one of the main characters as a former Street Fighter. The title was changed to Final Fight before its official release after feedback from operators stating that the game was nothing like Street Fighter. According to the developers, many elements of the game and its plot were inspired by the 1984 film Streets of Fire. Many members of the production staff are fans of the movie. One of the main characters from the game, Cody, was even inspired by the hero of the film, Tom Cody, who was portrayed by actor Michael Paré. The story of the movie also dealt with kidnapping an attractive young woman by a city gang. The street gang the player faces in the game, the Mad Gear Gang, takes their name from a 1987 overhead racing game by Capcom of the same name. The game was released as Lead Storm outside Japan. Many of the characters are named after 1980s rock musicians such as Axl Rose, Slash, Gene Simmons, Sid Vicious, Billy Idol, and Abigail, named after King Diamond's second album, who also dons face paint similar to King Diamond. Roxy Music and Poison, and another game being The Forgotten World. Hugo Andor, another notable boss character, is based on Andre the Giant. Because Capcom believed that players would feel bad beating up a woman, they noted in the manual that the female opponent, Poison, was transgender. Good job, Capcom. Soundtrack was the work of 7 composers: Minami Matsume, Yoshihiro Sakaguchi, Hiromio Fujita, Junko Tamiya, Yasuki Fujita in his first work for Capcom, Hiromitsu Takakoa, and Yoko Shimomura. Despite this, Sakaguchi is the only composer credited in the game as Yuki-chan's papa. The other 6 were confirmed as having worked on Final Fight in 2014 when the Clarice disc imprint of City Connection released the Final Fight Original Sound Collection, which featured the original soundtracks to the 3 original Final Fight games and its accompanying ports. Speaking of ports, the SNES port was a launch title released in Japan in 1990 and North America a year later, and in the PAL region a year after that. It was released for the Virtual Console in 2007 and the Wii U's Virtual Console in 2013. The SNES port removed 2-player co-op, the industrial area, and a playable character named Guy. Most of the scene transitions were also edited out. In the arcade version, the player's characters would be seen exiting the levels and breaking through doors, unlike the SNES version. Due to hardware limitations on the SNES version, it can only display 2 or 3 enemies on screen, in contrast to the CPS arcade version, which could display up to 9 or 10 enemies on the screen. To make up for this difference, the SNES version features more stopping points than the arcade version, and enemy placement is vastly different. The English localization was censored for its content and features several differences from the Super Famicom counterpart. The first 2 bosses, Damned and Sodom, were renamed Thrasher and Katana, respectively. Belger's wheelchair was redrawn to look like an office chair. Poison, a woman with pink hair, and Roxy, a woman with red hair, were replaced with 2 male enemies named Billy and Sid. All alcoholic references were removed, with 2 health recovering items replaced. The line, "Oh my god," spoken by an enemy when his car is destroyed in the first stage, bonus stage, was changed to "Oh my car." The blood splash effect shown when a character is stabbed is replaced by a generic explosion. Some of the darker skinned enemy characters were given lighter skin tones. The original soundtrack was ported to the Super NES by Toshi Kajino, credited as Bull. There is a revised edition of the SNES port, Final Fight Guy, released in Japan in 1992, that replaced Cody with Guy, added a new opening and ending sequence explaining Cody's absence, included 4 difficulty settings, added other new features such as power-ups, although the industrial area stage and 2-player mode are still omitted. An American version of the game, featuring the same changes in the localization, was released in June 1994 as a rental-only game that was initially available at Blockbuster stores, although it was later given a limited release. Kajino's music port was retained for that version. It was very acclaimed by critics. Mega Magazine compared the Mega CD version of the game favorably against the incomplete and, quote, poor SNES version, and placed it at the top of their list of best Mega CD games of all time. 4 reviewers of Electronic Gaming Monthly declared it a strong conversion of the game with solid fighting action, though 2 of them also commented that the necessity of the CD is questionable at best. We're looking for one. Here we go. In '97, Nintendo Power ranked the SNES version as the 97th best game on any Nintendo platform. Retro Gamer included it. It's more Mega CD, sorry. Super NES version was a commercial success, selling 1.5 million copies worldwide, becoming one of Capcom's best-selling games on the platform. Entertainment Weekly gave the SNES version a C- and wrote that this bright, fast-moving kick-and-punch game would have been terrific, but for one terminally racist detail, as the male Caucasian hero, you square off against dark-skinned thugs. Well, I don't know if anybody I'm aware of really considered that, because it's just a fighting video game, but that's what it is. And Final Fight it's a game. These games, especially on the Super Nintendo, you know, they're good, but they're all about 20 minutes too long, I think. Because by the time you've gotten to like stage 4 out of 6, you're ready to be done. Still, it's Final Fight. It has a good, solid spot in video game history, spawned a long lineage of games, and very much worth the play if you've never given it a try.